Can't buy me love, love, can't buy me love. I'll buy you down.
All right, how's it? This is Mr. Hippie Heil, and today we are learning about how to create a 60s style design. So we're going to transport into the 60s. As you can see, the 60s had a very unique style of design. Here's one from the Beatles and the Yellow Submarine, and notice the text is really unique. Let's go ahead and look at another one. As you know, Woodstock was really popular in these days, and so they had a lot of music posters for this kind. And you have a lot of unique perspectives, and I think one of the things I like best is the way they use the text and typography in designing it. So we're going to do something like this with different shapes, and notice how the letters and typography shape around the shapes. And so we're going to create something a little like that. Here's something that one of my students had created, and so we're going to create something similar. Here's one that I had done. So what we're going to do is we're creating the back of our CD label, and so we're going to be putting this on the back of our cover. So you're going to need to have the singer's picture, the singer's name, the song, and then the running time. So let's get started. Command N, bring up a new document, and the width, we're going to use inches. Make sure your unit is in inches, and we are going to go for the width. Let's go 5.95, and for the height we're going to go 4.65, and for the bleed let's put it at 0.08, and advanced mode let's go color RGB because we'll probably be saving these for the web. And we're going to name this like CD back cover, and then maybe your user ID. Okay, and then now we're good to go to start. So first things first, we're going to start by creating the sides of our booklet. So if you notice that we have edges here, okay, that we need to create that have the song name and so on. So that is going to be 0.25 inches. So Command R to bring up your ruler, and you can go up to Illustrator, Preferences, Units, and just make sure that's in inches, and that's okay. And then we're going to bring that out to 0.25. Another way to get that is if you choose like the rectangle tool, you can double click and put 0.25 inches for the width, and then you can measure it up and make sure that it works, and it does. And so I know that my it's not lying to me the other side, so I can come up here and then just make sure mine is at 0.25 inches. Okay, so that's going to be my guide. I'm also going to put another guide down here, and that's going to be because we're going to be creating at the bottom like your record name, barcode information like that. So I want to make sure I remember to keep some space down here. So I'm going to just keep it at right about 1 inch should be good. So if I do a square, that's about, for my height, 68.68 inch. So something around there is fine. It can be a little different. Hold on. Next, we're going to grab our picture. So grab the picture that you took and drag that into Illustrator, and take that, Command X, and make sure you put it into your document and paste it. And then you can just zoom out if it's too big. And actually, we can just move it over here because we can work with it over here for a second. Okay, so what we're going to do is vectorize this really easily. So we're going to just go to Object, Live Paint, Live Trace, and Tracing Options. And instead of black and white, we're going to choose color, and instead of max color 6, we're going to choose 3 colors. We're actually going to use your 3 main colors for your color scheme that you use for your CD, so we can use 3. And then we can hit preview just to make sure that it's got selected and it's okay. and then we can go ahead and hit trace, and then go ahead and hit object, and we go to live paint and make, and we don't need to show that. Okay, now we can start customizing our painting. Now you should have had a color scheme that you worked out in Cooler. So if you notice in Cooler, you should have had at least 3 colors, and you could use black or white as an additional color as well. But you're going to take those numbers, so you should see like an RGB number. So for example, 2, 3, 9, 1, 7, those kind of things. So 2, 3, 9, 1, 7, 8. So what you can do is in your swatches, you can create a new color. So just hit the new color group, and we can call this like my swatches. And so now my new colors are going to go here. Now you're going to deselect the picture, okay? And so you're going to go ahead then, and we're going to create a new swatch in here. So what you're going to do is you can just go ahead and double click on the color and click new swatch. And for a new swatch name, you can just create it. So I'm going to say that's like a yellow orange. So yellow. And then write in those numbers that you see there. So my numbers are 239, 178, 71, and I'm going to hit OK. And then make sure that you drag that color into your swatch. So notice it's right in my swatches here. So again, I have a few different colors of those. So I'm going to do the same thing to my other colors. Take this object and try to delete the other areas that we don't need. Hopefully you did on a clear background, so it'll be a lot easier. So go ahead and click on your image, hit Command Shift G to ungroup it, and then hit A on the keyboard as an apple to make sure the direct selection tool is selected, and then just go ahead and click and select different parts that you don't want and hit delete. Okay, and hit delete twice. And so just go over. You'll notice what it's selecting, and again, if you make a mistake and delete something you didn't want, like if that happens, just undo it and try to be more precise on what you want deleted. Okay, so once you get something that you want, again, hover over it, make sure there's no lines like that. There is the color option right here under live paint bucket, so if you hit K on the keyboard, you'll get it. Now, if you go ahead and select your folder of color palettes, you can easily go right and left arrow to switch between them. So what I'm going to do is start selecting and coloring her in. So I'm going to choose this for the red. I'm going to choose that, and then I'm going to choose the yellow for the accents. And again, you can choose exactly what you want to highlight. Now, if there's something that doesn't work well, like for example, there we go. So for example, I don't really like this little area here around there. So what I can do instead is I can simply So what I can do is select it, Command Shift G to ungroup it, and then I can select that area using the direct selection tool A, and then I can either change it, like I can click and move these around to the way I want it to, or if I just don't want this area, I can just delete that. So, and again, hit delete twice. I want that. Maybe I don't want that little piece right there. Okay, now again, you can use black or white as another color if you need it. Otherwise, just use your color scheme and you're good to go. So now I'm going to again highlight all of it, Command G, make sure it's grouped, and then I'm going to move it into my CD. Now I want them facing towards the text. Now you can decide how you want to lay it out. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and then resize one of the corners only, something more like that, and then I'm going to zoom in. So you can decide if you want to put her like over here and then the text on this side, or over here and the text on this side. But if you do it over here, make sure you go to Object, Transform, Reflect, and then hit Vertical and Copy, and it will, well, I guess you don't have to do copy, but you can have her on that side. Okay, so now that's how you set your self or the singer's portrait vector into your CD. Now we're ready to work on the text to place in your CD case. Now use one of your typography styles that you've decided. If you really don't think it's going to work out well, you could download a different font that's more appropriate that you think will match well for this. You want to make sure the font is thick though, because we are going to be stretching it. You don't want it really thin. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is B for brush, and I'm just going to do like a gray, and I'm going to kind of decide the lines of where it's going to be going on my basically creating like an outline. Okay, so if I want my title to be up here, and I'm going to move that down a little bit, and then if I want my song title to be here, and if it's 2 lines, like 2 words or a few lines that you want to work with, that's fine too. Remember that we have our guide down here, so you want to make sure that you don't put any text in that guide area as well. And also leave room for like a running time. So once you have everything ready to go, you're ready to start typing your typography. So put in and again, you can put in the title of the song first if you want to do that, or you can put the singer's name first. For my singer name, I'm just going to call her Misty Lee. Okay, and I'm going to choose a font. So I have my font that I've downloaded and chosen. So I'm going to hit Command T to transform and kind of lead that out to fill up the space that I have for it. You don't have to fill up the whole horizontal space, but you should fill up most of the vertical space. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, once you think you have it, you're going to hit, I like to make a backup of this text since we're going to be making an object, so Command C, Command V, and then what I can do is just move this over here off to the side. And I'm going to hit Command Shift O because now I made it into editable objects. And if you wanted to space it out, I just hit Command Z. You can go to your type, window, type, and paragraph, and then you can adjust the go to character, and then you can adjust like the kerning, so you can space it either closer together or further apart. You can also adjust the height of it. So once you got that going, now you're ready to hit Command Shift O to let that go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use the warp tool. So if I hit Shift R, I'll bring up the warp tool, or it's right here. And what I'm going to do is kind of warp this text, into this space right here. Like I want it to fill this space. So if I just click and drag it, I'm filling the space. Now, if there's certain things like notice it doesn't really look like an R anymore, okay, or an S, I guess that was. You can take certain things and lock them. So if I hit Command Shift G to ungroup them, I can take this S, and then if I can just hit lock the selection. So now when I do my Shift R to warp it, it's not gonna touch that letter. Okay, that letter is gonna stay how it is. So I'm gonna continue. Oh, and you'll want to lock your vector of your person so that they don't get warped as well. These lines are just guides, so I can just click on those, and then I can go to View, and then Guides, and then I can hit Make Guides. So what we just did was made guides that we can do. So Shift R again, and I'm going to continue to just fill that space as much as I can. And again, this is where your creativity and style will come out. But just make sure that the letters are recognizable and you can tell what they are. Okay, for the song name, I'm going to call this Beyond the Mouse Flip. So I have to decide if I want it on one line or two lines. You can put it all on one line, or you can divide it into two. You can have some white space or not. So it's totally up to you. So if you want it on two spaces, you'll have one group like this, okay? And then you'll have one group like this. And again, you'll make this bigger so that you can fill in the sides. And then make this bigger to fill in the sides. Now again, these guides are there just to help you guide the shape. If it doesn't work, then just fix it and do it the way that you want. Okay, so again, you want them very close to each other. So again, Shift R to warp, and I'm gonna have to really warp this. And again, remember Command Shift O. And again, I like to make copies of it in case I want to change my mind later on. So Command Shift O, and I'm going to start warping this. Oh, and I would lock, once you have these, I'm going to hit Command G to lock it, and Command 2 or lock. And I'm going to start editing this. For the running time, figure out how long that song is and use a bracket just to distinguish it. So if it's like 3:43, and then just make sure that font is really legible. I mean, you might want to use a different text, or you could use the same, or one that's in your style. So I'm gonna make that a little bit bigger and then decide where I'm gonna put that. And then again, Command C, Command F or V to paste that. Command Shift O, Shift R, and I'm gonna kind of do it something like that. So again, this is an example of how like it kind of manipulated it too much. You can't really even tell what that is. Okay, what you're gonna do now is we're gonna color this background area. So you can use a rectangle tool and just draw around the whole thing. Once you've placed it, just hit Command Shift left bracket to move it behind everything. And then what you're going to do is, again, the same thing, but you're going to use a rounded part, and we're going to do one like that, and make sure that they're all even right here. And then go ahead and fill that with the same color as the again, Command Shift left bracket, Command right bracket. You're going to use that same color as what the person is mostly of. Okay, so now this background color too, you can choose black, white, maybe a gray. Just make sure it's kind of like a more neutral color, and make sure that they're all about the same size. And remember, you can see how the guides are right here. That's actually where it's going to end. So you want to make sure that when you make sure that they're all even around the borders, that it's around there and not these side edges. And if it comes off the page, that's fine. That can be like continuation. But what we're going to do now is color. Hit Object, and then we're going to select choose Object and unlock all. And so click on your person and hit and lock them back up. Click on your title of the person's name, and we are going to, once I select them, color that one of those colors. So I'm going to select it, then hit I, and then I'm going to choose one of the colors that we used for our color scheme, or you could choose from one of those three colors. Okay, so I'm going to choose that one. Then here you can choose the other color, or you could even choose just an outline if you want to. Like for example, I could just choose to do an outline and then like a no color, so I could do something like that. Okay, but if it does go off the black like that, then you'll want to reduce it a little bit. So I'm going to reduce it in size to make it fit. Here we go. Now you'll want to create kind of like a what's it called? You'll want to create a little bit of a shadow. Okay, and so to do this, what I'm going to do is click on the person's name and Command C, Command F. What I did was made a copy of it. Okay, and then what I can do is move that like slightly over, and then change it to a different color, preferably one that's in your color scheme. So I could choose maybe something like that, but then Command left bracket, I'll put it behind it. Okay, so I'll do something like that to make it a little bit more matching. And again, I'm going to take that. Now notice that the vector of the person is kind of behind the text. It's up to you if you want to do it in front of the text or behind the text, but if you want to put it in front, Command Shift right bracket, and that'll bring her to the front, which might look a little bit better because you don't want text covering her unless it really looks good that way. So now we got the text in the way we want it, and again you can choose whether to do outline or whether it looks all good coloring. This is where you add your creativity and design to make it look really good. Remember, for your text, if you do outline, you can choose the stroke if you want like a really thick stroke, or if, which may look better, or if you want a thin stroke. That's up to you and how you think it'll look best with your type of font. And you can choose your brush as well, but just make sure it has a 60s kind of look to it. So now we're going to create the bottom of it, this area. Again, this is going to be like your barcode and information. To make a barcode, it's actually pretty easy. I'm just going to get a new space over here. And I'm going to choose the rectangle tool. And I'm basically just going to make some thin lines here. Okay. And make sure that they're no stroke and black. Okay, and you might want to zoom in a little bit more. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command F, and then just use your arrows to move it to the side. And they're going to vary in size. Okay, so I may have one like that, one like that, one even thinner. Another one that's thin but spaced out differently. So basically just create a bunch of these like so. And once you have about 5, go ahead and hit Command G to group, and then what you can then do is put a guide down to make sure that we do them correctly. So Command C and then Command F, and then hold on the Shift key, and then after you click it, and then you can drag it into place. Then after you've dragged it into place, hit Command C, Command F, but now we can hit Command D, and what Command D will do is automatically repeat the same action. So again, Command C, Command F, Command D, and that will just basically create more like that. So after you have groups of maybe 5, you're going to take the first one, Command Shift G to ungroup it, and you're going to bring down 1 or 2 of the last ones, and this will be kind of like the guides for the number. For our numbers, we're going to use about 11 numbers, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It really doesn't matter which numbers or what font, but just choose one that looks like a professional number font, and then we're good. Highlight all of them, Command G to group, and then now we can place that onto our city label. Make sure that's on the top layer. Okay, so we got our barcode like so. Now what we're going to do is place our information about the CD here. We're actually going to call this like a record label kind of thing. So what I can do is, for example, if your name is take the like first two initials of your name and just call it like MH Records. If your name is John Lee, JL Records. It doesn't have to be very I'm just going to use MH, okay? And again, you'll want to kind of make that a little bit bigger because that's going to go right next to the barcode, okay? And then put text right below it and call that records in all caps. And then you can place it where you want to, and I would make it a little bit smaller. Make sure the size matches the width of the two text, and then you can change the color, but don't make it too crazy different than what you have already. That's very important. Okay, and then Command Shift G to ungroup, Command Shift O, Command Shift G to ungroup. And if you want to add a little personality, you can do that as well. So I'm going to just add something like that. And I'm done with my record label. Again, Command, if you ever want to lock something, just hit lock selection. And I'm actually going to lock a lot of stuff right now because I don't need it. Okay. So, next what we're going to do is put in the text that goes here. And so I have some text that if you check the directions, you can just copy and paste the text right here in this area. So just hit the T for text, draw a box around this area right here, and then go to the copy and paste it, or just write some text and just make sure it's like Arial thin is good, or just Arial. Now when you paste it in, make sure that it's, let's go to 4-point font. I think 4-point font will be plenty good. And then it all should easily fit in that area. What you can also do is change the kerning and the spacing too if you think it won't work well. But make sure it's a contrasting color and that you can easily read that. We're going to hit T for text, and you're going to just type in the name. So if it's just Misty Lee, and then choose the text font that you want, and so put Missy Lee and then dash and then the song name. Okay, so now we're ready for that. Hold on the shift key and you should be able to easily just flip it around like that, and then make it a contrasting color. So I'm going to actually use one of the colors of the color scheme so it contrasts as well, and we're going to place it right into our object. Now to make sure that it's the same size or centered, we're gonna center it. So what you're gonna do is choose the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle around that whole area of the side. Okay, all of it, so all that black thin area. Okay, and yeah, you could choose like any kind of color because we'll be deleting it anyway. And you're gonna drag the text right on it like that, okay, and make sure it's on top. And then hold down the shift key and select the other object. And then also after you do align a center, which centers it this way, we need to also center it this way. So you're going to select vertical align center to make sure that's aligned center. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually we need to spin it the other way. The text needs, hold on the shift key and flip that around. The text needs to be facing outwards. And what we're also going to do is Command C, Command F, and we're going to move that over here, and again rotate it so that the text is facing outwards, and make sure that you can use the guides here to line it up right inside that area. Okay, now we're done with our guides, so we can go ahead and delete those. So just hit delete and delete. And now we are done with our back of the CD label. So, and finally we're going to save it. So go to Shift O or Artboards. Make sure that it goes around the design. And go to File, Export, and then choose JPEG and use Artboard Range 1 and export as full quality RGB. Okay, done. So now we have a back of the CD case that has your creativity in it from the 60s, and I hope you had a little fun and get some disco in when you're at it.